Hi, my name is Don Adams, and I'd like to share with you today about teenagers understanding their parents. I've been working with teenagers for 21 years, and I've enjoyed my time working with teenagers. I've had lots of time to sit down with both parents and teens and to discuss many different issues over the 21 years. And there's a story that I like to share when I sit down with both the parents and the teens because I think it's a story that's very helpful in developing understanding of both perspectives. And and sometimes when I share this story, it even usually sometimes it solves a problem. It helps the teen to understand a little more about their parents, and the parents to understand a little more about their teen or youth or whatever stage of life that you're in currently. And I like to share this for any stage of your youth or and it's really good for a family discussion. Well, my son was about 2 years old. We had another son, and he was in the hospital a little bit longer, and so he had to stay with grandma for an extra couple days. And when we got home with the baby, we wanted to make sure that we paid attention to Ben and make sure that everything was okay, and to make sure there wasn't any jealousy or anything like that. So we I decided that maybe we should go get a pumpkin. It was pretty close to Halloween, and him and I could carve a pumpkin out. And I was trying to pay attention. I don't know if he even knew what was going on. It probably was more important to me than it was to him. But anyways, we went out and we went to go get a pumpkin. So we drove about 15 miles. It was probably about 8 o'clock at night, and there weren't too many places still open. So we found this little stand that was open, and it was on a real busy road. And uh, Ben and I, we walked over and started looking at some pumpkins, and he was a very active 2 year old, and I let go of his hand and to pick up a pumpkin, and he took off running towards the road. Well, we were only about 20 feet away from the road, so and I dropped the pumpkin and I went running for him and I grabbed him and I threw him back, and just as I threw him back, my legs slid into the road and the car just missed my legs, and and that was a very scary time. But Ben was back there; he was screaming and hollering and just didn't know what happened, and was very upset and thought I just did a horrible thing by throwing him away from the road. But in reality, he didn't realize that I had just saved his life. And but there was no way at this point in his life that he could even begin to understand what had happened there. That he didn't know about the dangers of the road, even though we tried to tell him at times. But there was just no way that at that point he could understand. So as a parent, I did what I had to do and protect him and throw him back from the road, and I saved his life. Um, so he hears me tell a story, but I'm sure that he can't even remember when it had happened. So when I sit down with parents and teens, I share this story with them because even though Ben was only 2 years old, there was certain things that he could not understand. When you are Even though when you go through your different stages of being a youth and going into being a teen and and then working on going into adulthood, there are a lot of things you don't understand. So, your parents are there to guide you and direct you, and they say yay or nay, and some things happen, and once in a while they got to throw you back from the road, and you're back there screaming and hollering and saying, "Oh, my parents don't understand me. They don't love me. I just can't understand why they did that." And and I understand that at that point in your life, there's just things that you think you might understand, but you just don't quite understand yet. And the parents are probably worried about who your friends are, where you're going, what you're doing, who you're going to be with, how long you're going to be gone, what time you're going to get home, and and all those vital information. Um, and sometimes they say yes and no, and we just have a fit, and those kinds of things. But there are things that the parents know and understand that that sometimes it's just not possible for you to understand. On the other hand, we need to have a discussion of this, and there's certain times we do let a little bit of line out and let you try different things and test you and see how you do, and that's all part of growing up and bringing up quality young people. And I just share this story with you, hoping that you might be able to have a discussion in your family, and you can discuss that maybe there are things you don't quite understand yet, and there's things that you have to say no about, or there's certain things that you can let them do, or there's certain dangers out there that you just don't see. That you can see that if you start smoking or drinking as a teenager, it goes into addiction, and then you spend a lifetime of having problems in that area. So, and there's a lot of areas of which this could apply to. And so I hope we can open up the discussions within your family, and and kids, you could begin talking to your parents, maybe trying to understand some of those areas and some of those areas that they're trying to protect you from. And parents, maybe you could just um, help your kids begin to understand a little bit more about some of the dangers that are out there and begin those discussions before you hit the dangers. I think to discuss it ahead of time and to prepare and know where you stand and know what kind of decisions you're already going to make before you do that is very, very important. If you don't know where you stand on those things, your teenagers are going to react. And sometimes, we're not perfect as parents, and we know that we have our failures, and there's qualities things that we do wrong, and our teenagers are going to react to those things. So we need to be very, very careful. And so hopefully this opens up discussions in families all over our country, and you can watch this and share it with others. And if you ever have any questions, you can email them at daonthehill@hotmail.com. daonthehill@hotmail.com. And I'd be glad to share with you or talk with you, and with any more things that I could help your family with. And thank you for spending a few minutes and listening to the story. Hopefully, it's helpful to your family. Thank you.